Have you ever noticed how other people seem to know exactly what to say and how to say it? They never seem to lose their train of thought and they can express their ideas and thoughts super clearly. In this video, I'm going to show you how we too can train our brains to think fast before we speak. And if, like me, you fought to be understood all of your life, this is going to be a complete game changer. Conversations can be a struggle at the best of times, but let's face it, most people kind of wing it in conversations. They kind of make it up as they go along, but unfortunately, winging it only gets you so far. And the reason for this is that it can be hard to find a point to steer the conversation towards, and we end up scrambling around, hoping that the next thing out of our mouth will be some sort of good point. And the reason for this is that our brains are constantly adapting to new experiences, looking to find the safest way through each one. So as we grow up and learn to communicate through trial and error, our brain creates its own unique way to process and handle conversations. For example, if you're a fellow ADHD, your brain could have developed the habit of holding off your thoughts and holding off speaking up in conversation for fear of rejection, as an example. Our brain will create its own way to communicate. Oftentimes, these are short-term and simply to survive conversations. This means that when crucial conversations come up, ones with real stakes and pressure, our brain enters survival mode and switches to those short-term fixes. And this is exactly why we can end up screwing up job interviews and saying things we don't mean to our spouse, or babbling away like a madman on a date with someone that we really like. Our default communication is really ineffective in high-pressure situations. And it's because there's no structure to it. It relies us completely thinking on our feet. And we end up trying to search for the right words, but we end up losing the thread. And this leads to a very much stream of consciousness communication. Because our thoughts are unstructured, our communication becomes unstructured. So what can we do about this? Well, I want to introduce you to the power of frameworks. Luckily, our brain is neuroplastic. This means that it can be rewired, and we can rewire it to think in frameworks. So frameworks are simple structures to help organize your thoughts, and in organizing your thoughts, it will help you to organize what you say and when to say it. Think of frameworks as kind of mini recipe cards for organizing your thoughts. They give you steps to follow, so you know what to say next. It helps keep you on track if you get lost or distracted. And it makes your talking points clear. Others can follow what you're saying better because it's organized. And because of all of this, it boosts confidence. You know, when you know you have a plan for communicating, it's a lot less scary to start conversations or answer questions. And frameworks are perfect for a huge variety of situations. Job interviews, public speaking, friendships. There's even really powerful ones for relationships, which we'll get into later on. So where do you find frameworks? What are some good examples of them? And before I begin this, I want to give a shout out to Vicky Zhao, who has done a lot of videos on framework thinking and communication. And to be honest, I'll probably end up using part of her video title for my title too. So sorry, Vicky, thank you. But I'll link her channel below. I really encourage you to go and take a look because it is chock full of incredible frameworks for thinking and communicating well. So what are good framework examples? Well, there's a lot out there, and oftentimes they're not listed specifically as frameworks. So you may have to do some digging, but here's some great examples. There's the STAR method. So the STAR method stands for Situation, Task, Action, Result. And the STAR method is really good for job interviews. So in job interviews, you're often asked, tell me about a time when you did XYZ. Tell me about a time that you saved the company. Tell me about a time that you overcame a challenge. And the STAR method can help you formulate your thoughts and tell them the situation that happened, the task that you were responsible for, the action that you took to address it, and the results of those actions. So that's situation, task, action, result. Another great framework is 5 W's and H. And this stands for who, what, where, when, why, and how. So this is really good for information gathering. So for example, if you're putting together a bunch of facts about a situation, or you're putting together a story, these are some essential facts to know. These are also known as the reporter's questions, and it gets to the core of essential information. So how can this one be used? Well, for example, if you're a company developing a product, you could ask the questions, who is our ideal customer? What is their challenge? Why do they struggle with it? Where do they struggle the most? When are they most likely to struggle? How can we best help them? Another great communication framework is D.E.A.R. D.E.A.R stands for describe, express, assert, reinforce, mindful, appear confident, and negotiate. So you can see why this has been reduced down to a simple acronym here. But this is a really good framework for assertive communication, especially in relationships and friendships and, things like talking to your boss, etc. So as you go through this framework, you describe what you want, you express it clearly, you assert your needs, you reinforce why they should respond to your request. And during that, you need to be mindful, appear confident, and negotiate. And there are a ton of frameworks that can be found out there if you look for them. And if you want deeper dives on communication frameworks, then make sure you join my free bootcamp, which I'll link to in the description down below. Another great framework is the PrEP framework. So this is broken down into point, reason, example, point. So this is good for making a point, especially if you're an ADHD like me and can get off topic pretty quickly. This is a very, very simple but solid framework for making a point clearly and concisely. So for example, point, I think we need to fire John. Reason, because he's not been performing well this year. Example, like the time he lost the Mitchell account. Point, so that's why I think we need to fire John. So this is very, very simple to make your point, give a reason for your thoughts, give an example of that reason, and then make your point again to finish it off. Now, I apologize for the next framework icon. I couldn't find a better one for it. This is the but, therefore framework. So this framework is by Matt Stone and Trey Parker, who are the guys who are known for making South Park. And this is simply broken down into but and therefore. And it's a really good storytelling framework used to make stories for South Park as well as the movies. And it makes stories more interesting. So what they've pointed out is that when really boring, bad stories are told, they're kind of like Tom walked to the store and then he bought some candy and then he went home. And these stories just aren't really engaging. They're just and then, and then, and then. So to make a more engaging story, start replacing the words and then with but or therefore. So for example, Tom walked to the store, but he forgot his wallet. Therefore, he had to go back home. But when he got there, his wife was having an affair. You see how the storytelling path becomes a lot more interesting with but and therefore. The next framework is a really powerful relationship communication framework, which is 4-step validation. And this is something invented by Michael S. Sorensen. And this is broken into listen, validate, offer advice, and then validate. And this is a really powerful validation framework for opening up your partner or a friend or a loved one. It essentially creates an emotionally safe environment for them to open up and speak their feelings without fear of repercussions. And if you want a deeper dive on the power of validation, then I have a video for you right here. I'll see you over there.